So we are here, VCHSS 2019, round 2, April Fools at Oakridge in Arlington, Virginia, the Jester. If you guys have not seen last year's video of this race, make sure you check that out. It's in my videos somewhere. I was on the 97 YZ250. This year, I'm on the 2006 KTM 300 XCW, and I'm really looking forward to see how this bike performs in this race compared to last year on the YZ. Now last year I ended up getting stuck on a pretty slippery slope and decided once I made it up I would stop and help other riders up or try and redirect traffic around the area that everybody was getting stuck on. And then my GoPro died and it was just kind of terrible. So we didn't do so well that race, but we helped a lot of people out. And when it comes down to it, man, that's really what it's all about. It's not about, you know, going out here and racing and beating everybody and trying to place well, even though that is a part of it, because it is a race. When it all comes down to it, really it's just about out here having a good time, because nobody in my class or anybody that I race with that I know is getting paid for this stuff. We don't make a living off of it. So sometimes you gotta remember that. It's easy to get caught up in all the BS about trying to win and place well and all the political aspects of it, but when it all comes down to it, you really got to remember we're out here just for the love of riding these bikes and having a good time. One thing I will say that's a game changer for this year is the starts for me personally, because if you guys know, my YZ was terrible at starts. I couldn't get it first kick, so I was always like back of the pack during the starts of these races. This KTM is first kick, second gear, and we can be on our way. So I do have the rear camera on, and I recorded as much of the race as I possibly could in it. I decided I was going to try and incorporate that with the video editor to try and get you guys some pretty cool shots, basically the start and everything. Luckily, our buddy Randall here, I'll leave his YouTube channel in the description. He ended up telling me my rear camera was faced up way too high and helped me change it out. And he is awesome to watch. His videos are great. He's extremely fast. He actually won this race. Hey. We're gonna skip ahead, get to the starting line, and get this race going.
Who's brought stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the.
But for the most part, we do dead engine starts. This is a rolling dead engine start, which the class in front of you goes and you move up, and the class in front of you. It's kind of confusing, and it really sucks for a lot of people, because you can get pushed out of your class if you're not careful, because the line becomes more narrow and more narrow as you move up. obviously I wanted to get a better start than what I did, but we made it into the woods, I think 10th place, and out of 32, I believe. Really isn't that bad. We're doing 3 10-mile laps, and realistically, 10 miles when you're going deep into the woods is a long way, especially racing on these bikes. But the laps felt like they went fairly quick for me personally, because I was trying to push as much as I could. I did run into some issues in some areas that I really need to work on. There was a lot of open stuff, kind of like what we're doing right here. There's a whole lot of that, and you guys will see that coming up in a few minutes. And I'm really not a pin it to win it kind of a rider. I'm more of a let's get in a tight single track and, you know, beat each other up to try and get a different place, or, you know, rub elbows with the trees. And that's where I feel like I'm a lot better. But the open stuff, obviously, you know, you're gonna have areas where you need to work on, and that is a big area that I need to work on and do a lot of prep work and a lot more riding on. Now, I have compared my speeds from these 4 races this year compared to the 10 I think I did last year on the YZ, and the difference between the KTM and the YZ is about average about 6 miles an hour. So I am 6 miles an hour faster on the KTM overall this year so far than I was on the YZ last year, which is an extremely huge improvement. And once again, this is one of the things where I get extremely involved in the political aspect of it and why I need to go faster and what I need to do to make it better, instead of enjoying the actual race and the ride. And it's a tough balance. I have to constantly remind myself, and my awesome wife is constantly telling me, look, it's a race, you're supposed to be having fun. And that's what it's all about. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with taking it serious, because I obviously take it serious. But when it comes down to it, you start getting frustrated about things, you start wondering about things, and you start asking yourself these different questions about stupid stuff that you shouldn't be asking yourself. You got to be reminded, probably by someone else, because you're too far gone, that it is just a race. You're not getting paid for this. You're not making any money. You're not making a living doing this. You pay money to come here and race. You're supposed to enjoy it. You know, get off your high horse, basically. and that's just me. I mean, I have to be reminded of that a lot, especially this season, because I know I feel faster. I feel a lot more comfortable, and I feel like I should be doing a whole lot better. And it gets to me. It kind of messes with my head a little bit. But with time, I'll get a lot quicker, and we'll start placing a lot better. A lot of what I was doing with this race was, if I could see dust or I could hear somebody's bike in front of me, I was going to try and catch them, and I'm going to try and pass them. But once again, in these open sections and the off-camber stuff and the rocky areas, I really need to improve on those, because that's where I felt myself slow down, because I'm not as confident in them. Once we got into the woods, it was a whole nother story. But this kind of stuff right here, I know you guys can't really tell the incline difference or anything like that, or if it's off camera or not. But really, I just got to get out there and get on more of this stuff, because I got a little too comfortable in the woods. So that's all I've really been riding besides Charles City, the motocross stuff. And that's just for fun and kind of play around. And really, I need to get out and do a lot more serious riding with stuff that I am uncomfortable with, because I feel like I've gotten away from that a little bit this season, and it's time to reel it in. I did have the opportunity to hop on Randalls 2017, 2018, I'm not sure, Husky TE 350, and like I said, he won this race on that bike. So I jumped on it and took it through the fields a little bit on some really up and stuff, and I gotta tell you that air suspension it's something else. It felt awesome, and I told him once I got back from the ride on it that there was a couple spots where if I were to hit on this KTM, my front end would wobble, and on his Husky it just went over it like there was not even there. So I may do some adjustments to the front suspension. I know I will have to probably get a rebuild by the end of this year for next year's race season, and maybe we'll see some improvements there. We'll have to wait and see. And one thing I really want to point out to you guys, during these races, I don't pay attention to the scenery at all. I pay attention to the trail and trying to get through it as quick as possible. But reviewing and making these videos, I actually get a chance to see the scenery and where we're actually racing. And I gotta tell you, this is beautiful. We're right next to a little creek right here. And it really reminds me of where I grew up in the mountains, because we live on kind of the same scenario. We lived right next to the river. We had a cattle farm and all that stuff. So it was it's really awesome to see that we get to come and race in this kind of terrain. And honestly, I feel like if you're not careful, you'll miss it. going through right now is literally the muddiest section in the entire race. So luckily, I feel like the muddy races are over for now, for this time of year. And if you guys haven't seen the other videos of the mud races we've been in this season, make sure you check them out. Beginning of 2019 was nothing but mud and mud and mud, and getting stuck, and then digging out, and then more mud, and getting stuck, and more mud. It's a great way to race in the mud, or to learn how to race in the mud, but really, I'm excited that now we get to race in actual dust and dirt. So, instead of putting the rear camera on the bottom corner like I did before, I'm gonna give you guys a couple minutes of the rear camera footage just so you can see how close we're coming to these trees and really get a better feel for some kind of the off-camera stuff and just how the trail was while we were in the woods. Now we ended up finishing 17th out of 32, I believe. It really isn't bad, but I feel like I could have done a lot better. But it's still the beginning of the season, and we got a long way to go. So overall, there was a big mix of everything at this race, and I really appreciate the guys that put this on at Oakridge and Arrington, coming through scoring here. And I wanted to give you guys kind of a shot of what scoring usually looks like. There's a lot of slow stuff you can't pass or anything like that, so it's a little more relaxing. Transponder clicks in, you read the screen, see your positioning and your time. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. You definitely want to check out my other videos and the ones upcoming. We got a whole race season coming up. As all of you know, I'm racing 3 different series. We have the VXCS, the SXCS, and the VCHSS. Make sure you like and subscribe, leave a comment, I'll say what's up. I'm Tin West Moto, and I'll see you on the starting line.